as Munyumba would say, and we are live. Good
Yeah,
evening,
we
Dr.
live.
Mufaya. Welcome to tonight's
Evening.
Sunday Live.
Thank you so much for having me here.
We're so excited to have you. Thank you so much for
Mhm.
making time to sit and chat with us. But before we do that, let me just do a little bit of a welcome to everyone who is here. We're just waiting for people to join. And we're
Okay.
encouraging people to let us know where they're joining us from, to share the broadcast, tell us where you're watching from, invite a friend so that you do not miss a thing. And today we're talking about food budgeting, and we are joined by Dr. Mfaya, and Munyumba will be joining us any minute now. And yeah, so before we get into it, like I'm saying, please share the broadcast and tell us where you're joining us from and what your expectations are for tonight. And also, just to get started, we will ask our usual question to Dr. Amfaya. In your
Yeah.
own words, tell us who you are.
Okay. That's a very difficult question to answer, but yeah, I will try to answer it. So,
Mm,
I am a young female working as a medical doctor, and I am passionate about healthy living and living a healthy lifestyle. And so I educate people about it. And also, um, I am a mom and a wife as well. So yeah, that also goes in the description of who I am.
mm, that's
Yeah.
lovely. Which part of Zambia are you from? I'm excited about talking about food budgets today because I'll be going into the different exotic foods that we have in the country. Which part
Okay.
of the country are you from, Dr. Amfaya?
So I am my dad is from Western Province, Lozi,
Mm-hmm,
and my
mm-hmm.
mom is Zimbabwean. Anyways, she's Shona, but you know those Shonas that came from Zimbabwe and then now they're living in Zambia. Yeah, she's Zambian, but she's Shona. Yeah, so I have those two mixtures.
Beautiful. Love that. Thank you so much. Just 1 second, Munyumba. Welcome. We're just saying you join us any minute now. We're so excited to have you. We're just getting to the introductions and just getting to know Dr. Amfaya a little bit. And yeah, welcome. How are you today?
I am fine. Hopefully, you can hear me.
Loud
I
and
am
clear.
good.
Mhm.
Obviously, just jumped through it. And I love you know what I love about the intro, Dr. Mufaya? I think that
Ah,
Mhm.
question of which part of Zambia you from.
yeah.
One funny thing people don't know about Zambia is we are the most intermarried country in Africa in terms of
Mm,
cross tribe marriages. So everybody
mm.
you ever meet always says, I am, but my mother is. You
That's
always
true.
get that sentence.
Oh yeah.
So it's actually always a lovely thing. And especially because we're going to be talking about food today,
Food.
how that's going
Yeah.
to play in.
And I'm
Yes,
excited because there's that Zimbabwe touch to it. Also, we'll try and test
exactly.
if
Exactly.
if if you are in touch with those roots too.
Yes, yes, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll talk more about it as we go on.
Okay.
beautiful. So
So
just yeah, over to you, Munyumba. Yeah.
thank you very much. So, Dr. Mufai, you talked about being a mother, being passionate about trying to educate people on their best health decisions, and you
Yeah.
really are passionate about food. And
Yes.
that's the one thing I picked up on your social media page. You're really passionate about food. So, what is
Yeah.
it in your life experiences or your professional experiences that brought you to really say, I'm going to take all this medical knowledge and I'm pouring it into this food sector here?
Yeah. So actually, I love food. I love eating, and I'm sure most people do. So as I am in the medical field and I have been trying to figure out where exactly do I fit in because it's quite broad and there are so many specialties in the medical field. And so I've been thinking, okay, what am I passionate about? And I realize I actually love food. I love cooking and trying out recipes, and also how can I incorporate that into a healthier way of eating and living, as it is my passion, how can I educate people on how they can make healthier choices on food choices, the foods that they eat in their homes? How can they make them more healthier? Many people do not have this knowledge, and they just eat as long as the food is there, so they just have to eat. And so it's important for us to have the knowledge. Yeah.
That's good. That's very interesting. I love
Yeah.
that you say that we just think we need to eat, right? And a lot of people like food. I love food. I just wanted us to dive into the subject that we're having today, and that is having a healthy food budget. So, what is a food budget, and is it distinguishable from our general budget in our home?
Yes. So a food budget is basically a list of the foods that you would want to eat in that month, and also attaching the prices of those different the foods that you want to eat, and having a total of how much you need to spend on the food. So that's, in simple terms, a food budget. So you can distinguish that from your actual home budget, which should include other things, the groceries and other expenses that you have in the home. Yeah.
So, I'm a firm believer in
Mm-hmm.
the fact that when it comes to the battle of either health or habits or anything, the battle
Yeah.
is not about how much you can resist doing wrong. It's about
Mm,
not even letting the devil through the door. Like, that's
yeah.
my main philosophy. Don't even let the devil through the front door so that you have to battle temptation in the first place.
Yeah.
So the question then is, how important is it now when we're talking about food budgets, building a healthy food budget? How
Yeah.
important is it to be selective from a health perspective? Food even enters your home, especially because you just talked like we always think that just because food is there, we just have to eat. So we're already fighting that temptation. How important is it to make sure that you start being health conscious at the point of the budgeting cycle, not at the point of when you're choosing what to cook?
Yes. Actually, that's very, very key and very important, because once you have a food budget, it means that once you go to the host to the market or the store, you'll be able to get the particular foods that you have listed on your budget, and you avoid getting certain foods that are not healthy. Yeah, so you avoid over getting snacks and getting all these other unhealthy foods that are not good for our bodies. So the budget would be able to direct you on what you are getting from the store. And that way, once you have that food in your home, you would now be able to make a meal plan, to plan your meals. What meals am I going to create from these foods that I have bought? And once you do that, you'll be able to have an idea. Okay, today or this week, I'm eating ABCD at this particular time. Or is for breakfast, lunch, or supper, I'm having this for this week, based on the foods that you have bought in that particular week. So it's very important that um, we make a food budget and stick to it. Yeah, don't go diverting and getting other things, because, yeah, because the food that is there in the house is what you're going to eat. So if you don't buy fruits, for example, it means you're not going to get fruit. You're not going to get any value or any vitamins and minerals from the fruit. And what you have in your fridge is what you're going to eat. So if you don't have certain things in your fridge, it means you not eat those things. Whatever it is there in your house is what you're going to eat. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And you know what I loved from what Munyuba had talked about, having a philosophy about don't let the devil in rather than
Yeah.
fighting temptation, and you talking about the importance of a food budget. It speaks to me, or what I'm hearing from you is it is important the way we
Hmm.
think about food, right? We shouldn't just show up and, like, they're saying don't plan when you get into the kitchen, like, oh, what am I going to cook? And then you just eat what's there, right? Or you
Yeah.
prepare what's there. So when we talk about healthy food, what should our minds be thinking about? What is healthy food? We've heard about fruits, like you have just said, but when I'm thinking I'm going to buy food for a household, how should I think around that? What's a good balance? Should I just cut out meat completely? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, what's my thinking around food when I'm thinking about a whole budget? What are the essentials?
Yes. So when you're thinking about food, you need to incorporate all the macronutrients. So there are three macronutrients that every house should have. These are like the basics. So you have your carbohydrates, your protein, and your healthy fats. So your carbohydrates should include things like your maize, enshima. Of course, it has to be roller meal because that's the best meal. And if you yeah, if you want or if you like, you can incorporate sorghum meal, millet meal. All those are also healthier options that you can include in your shima. So you have your shima, you have your rice. If you can, buy brown rice, but if you can't or you can't stand it, you can still get white rice. You have your potatoes, sweet potatoes. If you're a fan of pasta, if you love pasta, you can get pasta, and there are also healthier options of pasta where you can get brown pasta. And yeah, if you make a lot of, if you love to eat these baked goodies, such as chapati. You can still get flour, you make your chapati, you eat it with your protein. So on your proteins, you have to have at least good sources of protein. So if you're not vegetarian, you can include your meats, protein sources such as the beef, goat meat, chicken, fish. It can be fresh fish, dry fish, carpenter, fresh or dry, soya chunks, you know, eggs. These are all sources of good protein. If you are vegetarian, then it means your protein sources might be a bit limited, but of course, there are other alternatives that are there in terms of proteins for vegetarians. You can find different vegetarian products in different stores, or you can eat the same soya chunks. Soya chunks are a good source of protein for vegetarians. Yeah. There's tofu, gluten. All these are protein sources that vegetarians can utilize in their diets. Then, when we talk about healthy fats, um, these are fat sources that are healthier than the ones that are not so healthy. So let me just make mention that there are two types of fats: the saturated fats and the unsaturated fats. The saturated fats are the ones that we usually get from the beef, which is the cow meat, the porks, and these are not very good fats because they can cause a lot of hyperlipidemia. They can cause high fats in our body or high lipids in our body, and lead to hypertension, heart diseases. But it's okay to eat them once in a while if you are a person who eats meat. So you can eat these protein sources once in a while, but not very often. So maybe once in a month or once every 2 months, 2 months or so. Then when we talk about the healthy fats, these are the ones that we get from mostly our nuts. When I say nuts, I don't mean the orange nuts. I mean the nuts like groundnuts, whole nuts. These nuts that people are there, cashew nuts. Yeah. So these are good sources of healthy fats and also seeds as well. So seeds like pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, sesame seeds, all these are good sources of healthy fats. So these are the three macronutrients that you need to add. Then for the micronutrients, you get them from the same macronutrients also have micronutrients, but also in addition, we get them from our vegetables and our fruits. So you need to have vegetables and you need to have fruits in our diet. Yeah. So I hope that explains it.
It does. Only I'm still stuck on the once in a while is once in a month, once in 2 months. I'm like, I can only eat meat once a month.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk about that. How much is too much time? How much time is too much to eat meat? Because you
We're
said once
battling
in a
with
week.
once a day. Not
Yeah,
once
you
a week.
know.
A
We're
day.
battling with once a day.
Here I am
Yes.
thinking, oh, if I can bring
So,
it down to like 5 times a week at home, then that's
uh,
okay. But no, instead of
so with
all
me,
7 days,
yeah,
yeah.
with me talking mostly about the beef itself, the beef meat, and maybe also pork, because this one takes quite a longer period of time to digest. So we need to allow the body some time. Yes, yes. It takes
Uh-huh. Yeah.
about 5 to 7 days for the meat, the cow meat, to digest. So you need to give the body time to be able to digest it properly, and yeah, get the benefits from it. Otherwise, the other sources of meat like the chicken, the fish, they are more easily digested by our body. So you can even eat them maybe twice in a week. Um, yeah, that's okay. So you can eat your chicken 3 to 4 times in a week. Your fish, you can try to eat it maybe 2 times or 3 or 4 times as well. So yeah, include a variety. Have a variety of choices in your meal plan for the week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doc, you're defeating
Yeah.
us here. You're
I'm telling
defeating us
you, it's
here
like every week it's
because
like that.
it's either you are here to help the soya chunks industry
Uh,
or because I'm just seeing people going back with the whole home with sacks of namasoya just for the next
I'm
couple of
telling
weeks.
you.
But I
Hi.
don't. It's an eye opener because some of us are really meat pilers. So, Doc, there is a question and about all of this in the types of diets that we've seen.
yeah.
We've heard some people talk about people like the Professor Jordan Peterson, for example, has
Mhm.
touted the carnivore diet, where he just eats meat. Like he doesn't eat anything else,
Hmm.
nothing else, no gravy, nothing, but just meat. He just eats
Meat.
hard beef.
Wow.
While some people say vegetarian is the
Yeah.
way to go, some people say let's go extreme and be vegans. Okay,
Yeah.
so the question I think many people want to ask first is how many of these types of diets are there, and what are the pros and cons of these types of diets?
Yes. So there are quite a lot of diets actually. There are quite a lot. Um, so you talked about vegetarian diet and then the extremes that go to vegan diets. So the vegetarian diets might incorporate eggs in their diet, milk, and they might also take maybe fish. So yeah, if they're pescatarian, that's a pescatarian diet where they also eat fish as well. Then you have the vegan diet where they don't entirely eat milk, they don't take eggs. Yeah, so those are more on the extreme end where they don't really take milk or eggs. Then there are those that advocate for a keto diet. I'm sure the one that was taking a carnivore diet was more of maybe doing a keto diet of some kind. So with these ones, they only take certain foods that do not have no carbohydrates, and they take mostly protein foods and fat foods. Yeah, proteins and fats. So they avoid taking carbohydrates. Um, and of course, we have um, other types of diets like this low salt diet, where you take less salt, especially for for hypertensive patients. So we put them on a low salt diet. Then there's also a diabetic diet where you don't take too much sugar in your actually sugar free. Yeah, you don't take sugar in your diet. So that's more of a diabetic diet. Then there are also other types of diets where you have people who, let me just confirm something. I wrote it down somewhere. So, oh yeah, I was going to say low carb diets. So you have people who do a low carb diet where they take carbohydrates, they take proteins, they take fats, but they avoid taking too much of the carbohydrates, but they take on a minimal basis. So basically those are the types of diets that are there that are around. When we talk about the best type of diet, um, for me, I think it has to be a diet that is sustainable, a diet that you can sustain for a long time, for your whole life. It has to be a lifestyle. So and also a diet that includes all the nutrients that you need, includes all the macronutrients, includes your micronutrients as well. That's a healthy diet that we advocate for and encourage people to have. And yeah, that's what I can say.
Lovely. Thank you so
We're,
much.
we're, we're having a revolt in the comment section here about this once a month meet. I'm just warning everyone. There's a revolution happening in the comment section about this once a month meet thing. People are not happy, right?
They're
But
not
Uh,
anyway,
pleased. They're just like, no, mom, this is not about to happen. Yeah, no,
back
I
to
really
you.
like that we're on the conversation about diets, right? And there's a lot, like you are saying, on the internet with this information overload where people are trying to gain weight, trying to lose weight. And I think you said something very, very important, which is the most important thing is to have a diet that incorporates what is essential so that you still stay healthy, because that's really, really important. There's one question that I've been meaning to ask for a while to an expert now, and you talked about the vegetarian diet,
mhm.
and I attended a workshop where they talked about, is it vitamin B? And please correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a vitamin that is only found in the animal, or there's like
Yeah.
something that is only found in the animal that cannot be gotten anywhere in fruit or veggies, and therefore people need to be eating meat because this deficiency can be very dangerous. Is this true? And what are your thoughts around that? And just elaborate if there's some information that needs to be taken home regarding the I don't know if it's protein or vitamin or whatever that is in the meat and why that's important.
Yes. So that's very important because there's it's actually vitamin B12. So vitamin B12, people who follow a vegetarian or a vegan diet, it's very hard for them to get it from the plant-based diets. It's mostly gotten in animal products, so meat, beef, fish. These are good sources of vitamin B12, and also even eggs as well. So if you exclude eggs, you might not really get the benefits of getting vitamin B12. um, so they become deficient in this vitamin, and of course, like you have said, it can be quite deadly. They would have anemia because of it, and so it's important that they find alternatives to getting it. Um, I know it's not entirely that you can't get it from anywhere. It's found in chia seeds. So chia seeds are a good source of vitamin B12, but not many people actually are um, are able to get these chia seeds. So you need to be able to find sources of aware of having foods that can still give you this vitamin B12. And if you are deficient, you can still go to the hospital and they'll be able to assist with giving you the B12 and putting you on a regimen where you can still be able to get B12 from the hospital. Yeah.
Mm.
Doc, so you mentioned making sure we have a balance of our macronutrients.
Yeah.
And like anything, we need to make sure that our food reflects our macronutrients in terms of the balance. So the question may be, from your medical perspective or from even your professional perspective, what is the actual target numbers we should be looking at? So I'll give you an example. I've decided that when it comes to food, I need apps. I need apps to help me because I just throw stuff in my throat and pray to God that it doesn't harm me. And I realize that that may not be the smartest way to do things.
Uh-huh.
So I've actually started seeing, I have an app called My Net Diary, which is helping me see, and it actually shows me a reflection of what the percentages of my nutrients are. But I'm not sure what is the actual target amount recommended for the average person to be taking of protein, fat, and carbohydrates in their diet.
Yes. So I might not really have the actual figures with me right now, Yeah, but it's recommended that at least you take good amounts of protein at each meal. So in the morning, afternoon, evening, you need to have a good amount of protein. A good way of being able to assess if you're getting good protein in your diet is to look at the plate model. So how is your plate structured? Um, what are you putting in your plate and how much of it are you putting? So it has to be half of your plate should be your vegetables or fruit, vegetables and fruit, and then the other half you can have a carbohydrate and a protein. So quarter carbohydrate, quarter protein. So that is how your plate should be structured at each meal. You should be able to have a protein. You should be able to have um, your vegetables, which give you fiber and also give you the micronutrients, and also have a carbohydrate as well. Yeah.
The problem is we resist vegetables, but back
It's
to
a real
you.
war.
It's a war with vegetables. So I just so and maybe I'm just throwing this out as a question, as a follow up question. So I'm asking this for myself. So if you're in the comment section and you also need to ask this question, I'll do. Um, I adopted something that was told to me that at night avoid and is this wise? Because at night I started a system of removing carbohydrates from my meals at night and
Okay.
making sure that it's just vegetable and meat. Like that's
Okay.
it at night. So how safe is what I'm doing here? That's maybe the question I need to ask.
Okay. So when it comes to um, uh, getting that's more of a keto diet where you are removing carbohydrates completely. Yeah. Um, I think if you're able to sustain it, it's fine. But for people who are not able to do that and they still need to incorporate a carbohydrate in their meal, even in the evening, what I can say is um, reduce on the amount, the portion size. Yeah. So we need to be very careful of our portion sizes. So it doesn't have to be too much as long as you're able to eat enough because you're going to sleep, so you don't really need to eat so much. So you can only eat very little amounts in the evening, and of course during the day, in the morning, afternoon, you can eat a bit more. Yeah, but eating if you're eating vegetables and the protein only in the evening and you're okay with it, because it doesn't have to be something that you're not happy about when you're eating. You're just like, okay, I'm just eating this for the sake of eating because I don't really like it. It has to be something that you're actually enjoying. And if you love carbohydrate, it's okay to eat something as well. Include a potato, include some rice, a bit of rice, something if you enjoy it that way. But if you're okay with just eating your vegetables and your meat only, it's still okay as well. You can still eat it as long as you also get enough energy from what you're eating. Yeah.
Nice one. Just a follow-on question to that. A long time ago, we heard about, oh, eat your balanced diet when I was growing up anyway. That was the big conversation. Balanced diet, right? But now we've moved and I've seen a lot of conversations around having a rainbow plate, right? Where
Hmm.
you have more color on your plate. Could you elaborate on what that means, having a colorful plate, and how that's different from the conversation we used to know to hear about this is a balanced diet, and why is that important for us?
Yes. I think talking about balanced diet, we haven't really moved so much away from it because it's still a balanced diet. The rainbow plate is part of the balanced diet. Um, just that now we're talking more about the rainbow because we want people to include various foods and not be limited to their food, the variety of foods that they're eating. So include a variety. That's the whole idea. Um, so your fruits have got different colors and you get different nutrients from all these colorful foods. So include a variety of foods, but that doesn't mean that you have to eat rainbows every day. No. Yeah. You can plan out on how you're going to include all these foods in a week, in a month, um okay, this week I'm eating these types of fruits, next week I'm eating this type of fruits, or this and that. So include a variety of fruits in your diet, include a variety of vegetables, include a variety of protein sources. That's the whole idea. And as you're doing that, you also make sure that you're eating a balanced diet at each meal. So you're having your fiber, your vegetables, you're having your carbohydrates, your protein, and all that in each meal that you're having. Yeah.
So,
Ah, mm,
actually, just following up on this now, because I think this it is actually as important now, is that Zambia now has a food-based dietary, now has food-based dietary guidelines. So I don't know if you're
mm.
actually able to enlighten us on that, and also how relevant are they at a household level? Like, how do we see this in? Because we have a comment here about the Matebeto lifestyle here. Now, how do we get these food guidelines into what we're teaching people even at Matebeto level so that we get this to each household?
Yes. So I haven't read so much about the Zambian guidelines on the food, but I know we have a food basket that we always talk about, the Zambian food basket and all. So in our Zambian food basket, of course, we have a wide range of foods that are included in in this food basket, and people it's not that people don't really love going to the market as such, but if you go to the markets and you explore what's there, you'll be able to see that we have so much food and we're not taking in enough of our Zambian food. So our vegetables, we have a variety of vegetables. We have variety of wild fruits in our country. We have a variety of protein sources. People who eat vincovala and all of those things. So all these are food sources that are available to us in our Zambian food basket. And it's very important that we understand um, that we don't have to go away so much from our culture, our tradition of eating foods that have groundnuts and all these sashila, visashi, and all these foods, because they are also nutritious and they are good sources of protein. For example, visashi, that's like a whole meal on its own. You don't even have to eat shima when you're eating it. Just eat it like that. Because that's groundnuts. You can get your protein, you can get your carbohydrates, you have your fiber in there. But of course, you can still eat your visashi with your shima, your and your protein, whether it's another protein like fish, carpenta. So all these things are available to us in our Zambian culture, in our Zambian tradition, and we need to incorporate them. So we don't have to shun away and adopt a Western diet where no, now I have to eat. Anyways, I've forgotten the fancy names that people are using these days of these Western diets and trying to imitate what the Western culture is all about. But we can still use our Zambian food, make kandolo, which is your sweet potato with groundnuts, with peanut butter. That's a good meal. You get your pumpkin, you add some groundnuts in there. You boil your maize with groundnuts. All those are meals that our parents used to cook, and we kind of have gotten away from them, but we still need to incorporate them in our diets. Yeah.
Doc,
Love that.
I'm gonna throw something at you here.
Uh-huh.
We need people like you and all these nutritionists that we've got in this
Uh-huh.
country to come into the application space and also the book space, so that
True.
because the truth is, we when we look for diets, we only have this stuff written by Western people, and it's written by Western chefs and everything. But
Mm,
our local professionals, such as yourself, so think about it, because trust
Yeah.
me, this is an audience of people who would love to buy a food guide or have something to guide them to know that when they're prepping food, they're not slowly poisoning their family. They also don't want to feel, because food is personal. When you start
Yeah.
telling people change your diet to change your health, you start saying, "Oh, so my mother was poisoning me this whole time." Then it becomes a personal issue. But the
Yeah, no.
reality is, it's just a lack of guidance, and we don't have, like you've mentioned, what other protein sources we have in our local food. I think that was eye opening to me. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm just throwing that out there as a comment that, Doc, we need content from you people that can guide us on what should be in our kitchens and how we can prep food plans around
Yeah.
our local
Yeah,
resources.
I
That's
couldn't agree more. Mm,
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
mhm.
very true. We need more of uh people getting the actual knowledge of incorporating all these sources that we have in our country and not turning from the culture and the tradition we have. Yeah.
Yeah, that's lovely. Quick question. I've heard you, and you know what? We learned this in school, but I'm sure there are a lot of people who have forgotten. I have heard you say fiber, carbohydrates, protein, and all that good stuff. Just in
Yeah.
summary, help us understand, why is it important for me to take protein? What is protein doing for my body? What are carbohydrates doing for my body? What is fiber doing for my body? So that I know why this is essential. When I'm putting something in my mouth, I know this is the benefit of what I'm getting out of it.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Okay, so our protein is a very good source of um it helps to build our muscles. It helps to regenerate our muscles, regenerate certain cells in our bodies, such as your hair cells, your skin. All these need protein to be able to function well. And then our carbohydrates are the ones that give us the fuel to be able to function. So for you to be able to move, you need your carbohydrates, you need energy. So carbohydrates provide us the energy that we need to fuel our movements, our activities, and not only that, but even at the cellular level, our cells, they need energy to be able to function. So even if you're not doing anything and you're just seated, your body still needs energy to function and do certain activities in the body itself. So that's why it's important for us to take our carbohydrates. So if you people who take, for example, ketonic diets where they completely do away with carbohydrates, you find they have low energy, their mood is affected. So it's very important that we still include our carbohydrates to be able to get good energy from there. Then our fats, they help to regenerate our neurons. Our neurons are made up of fats, so our brain neurons, neurons everywhere, so you need your fats to be able to keep your neurons intact, to also function well, for the cells in our bodies to function well and carry out certain processes. They also need energy from the fats. And fat also is used as a fuel for energy when you have depleted your carbohydrate source. So still, it's good source of energy as well. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No.
So I know that we talked about. So you've talked about these sources of these macronutrients we need to have. So if I'm having a household budget here and
Mm-hmm.
I'm having my food and I'm trying to look at what should be in my budget, and I know you talked about it a little bit earlier, but let's just backtrack a bit because I've actually opened here the food basket that we have, the Jesuit Center food basket that we generally look at for cost of living, yeah, which we'll probably come back to now. And it's talking about your milli meal, it's talking about beans, it's talking about carpenta, dry fish,
Yeah.
meat, eggs, and so forth. What are the must-haves? If we're going shopping here and we're picking up things for the home, if we want to make sure that we're having a good balance here, what are the must-haves in our basket here?
Yes. So the must-haves will really depend so much on um, uh, family preference. So certain families don't prefer not to eat shima so much, while other families depend so much on shima, and certain families would prefer to have more rice than mealy meal, to have more pasta. You know, so the idea is that you need to have your carbohydrate, at least have a form of carbohydrate. So preferably what you like, whether you like shima or you like rice or pasta, potatoes, sweet potatoes, be able to carry those. Those are the must-haves for in terms of your carbohydrates. Then in terms of your protein, you also need to get the ones that you enjoy, the ones that you love to eat. You don't have to buy something just because we have said that it's a protein source and you don't like it. You just go and buy it. You don't enjoy your meal. We want you to enjoy your meal as you're eating, but just make sure that you're including enough variety as well. So get your protein sources, like we have said, your eggs, fish, chicken. Um, if you want, you can throw in some vegetarian choices. So your tofu, you can still, even if you're not vegetarian, you can still eat a vegetarian meal even once a week. Eat some soya chunks, eat some tofu, some gluten. Have variety. That's what we're saying. So beans as well, a very good source of protein. I saw something the other day. Somebody was comparing beans and meat, and beans and meat, or 100 gram of beans and 100 gram of meat have actually the same amount of protein. And so you can still get your protein from your beans. And an added advantage is that your beans will still give you more fiber. So you'll be able to get more fiber from there. You have um, uh, more vitamins, more than what the meat choice has. So get your beans. You can, if you don't like beans as much, you can still have it once or twice in a week, depending on how much you love beans. Other families would love beans more, others will not. But get your beans. Eat beans at least in your diet as well. Yeah.
So I'd like us to, just before we shift, to settle one debate here. There's been a raging debate in our country about tea time, candolo versus bread. Which one?
Mm, mm,
When people are making their tea,
yeah.
sorry, your mic is off. Candolo or bread? What should we be having?
From
Yeah.
what I've heard Doc say, it sounds like, well, I'm going to risk it, but this is a person who loves bread. I could eat bread all day, every day. But from what I'm hearing, it sounds to me like it's about balance, right? If I eat brown bread, I get some good fiber out of there, and that's okay. But also, sweet potato also has its benefit. So I don't think it's either or. Am I right, Doc? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to the love of bread, I love bread. Everybody in my house likes bread. So bread candolo. And I know that the people who actually don't like candolo as much, maybe they don't like bread either. So it has to be something that you enjoy. And even if you're eating sweet potato in very small bits, as like I have said, you get different nutrients from different food. So if you don't like a particular food, you can still have it once in a while. So you can still get your candolo and still prepare it the way that you love it prepared, at least maybe once in a while, especially when it's in season. Try to get it at that time, prepare it once or twice or so, and just enjoy it. And if you love it to eat every day, that's still okay. You can still eat every day. And there are also some other families where maybe they can't afford bread, or they can't afford certain food. So candolo might be the option at that time. So still get your candolo, eat it. It's still good, nutritious, high in vitamins, and high in fiber as well. Candolo has a lot of fiber. So eat it, and it's good for your nutrient, for getting your nutrients in. Yeah.
One thing I appreciate today, talk about our conversation, is the fact that you are saying you want people to enjoy food. Now, in the last 3 weeks, we've had a lot of information, good, great information that has been taught to us, like cutting down our sugars, cutting down our salts. And it's so easy to walk away from that conversation thinking, will I ever enjoy my food? You know? So you saying that we can enjoy our food is such a good thing for me, and I'm really glad that you said it and you put it out there. But most importantly, it's you caveating that with saying, we have a variety of food. Sometimes I just think, what, I just want to eat chicken, or I just want to eat meat. And sometimes when we're closed-minded about what our options are, we find that we won't enjoy our food. And I'm just really glad that you brought out those two things, that we can enjoy our food and that there is plenty of options for food that we have out there. My next question was now in relation to that. You've talked about the different things that need to be part of our diets or our meals. What I wanted to hear from you is, how do I know when a family member or I am deficient in one or all of the foods that you're talking about? Because sometimes you can find people eat too much carbohydrate, they've left out the protein or something. When do we know that, there's a deficiency of nutrients somewhere?
Yeah. Sorry about that. Somebody was trying to pour. Yeah. Um, so there are actually a variety of food deficiencies that can occur when we don't take a particular type of food. Um, for example, if you are not taking enough protein, you can have marasmus, kwashiorkor, and all these conditions. We have beriberi. So you'll be able to see from maybe the symptoms that the person is having. Depending on what the condition or what is deficient in the body. So they might start having a lack of energy. They start losing protein, so their muscle mass starts reducing. They might start having rash on the body. They might start having some state of confusion in certain cases for certain conditions. Yeah. So depending on what is deficient in the body, for example, in cases of people who take alcohol and they abuse alcohol, they might have a deficiency in vitamin B3. And so they might even get into states of confusion, state of having seizures. So all these are different deficiencies that people can look out for. Depending on what the patient has. So make sure you take the patient quick to the hospital, and then they can investigate to see what is wrong and which deficiency is there. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, and I'll attest to that. To our brothers out there who enjoy the pint on a
Mm,
regular basis, vitamin B deficiency is not a fun thing. We've been through it. It actually was the cause of my. I've been open and I said I struggled with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and a lot of it, according to the doctors, cited it
mhm,
as a vitamin B deficiency. And thank you for pointing that out. So some of the things that are toxic that we also bring into our diets that we also need to moderate, because we think we talk about things we should be taking, but we often forget about the things we should be reducing
mm,
because of their level of toxicity. So, Doc, coming into all of this now, we're trying to sit down with the average family because
mm,
budgeting is extremely an important thing because we want to balance health and the pocket. Because
mm.
people will say it's the pockets that are causing issues. What do you say to a family when they're trying to? What would you say to a household that says, "Look, I want to eat healthy. So how do I do it while it's both affordable and healthy?"
Yes. So actually, it's possible to get healthy food even for families that are not earning as much. So you can look around and see um, among the foods that we have mentioned, you can be able to pick out which one is more cheaper for me, which one can I easily access. Am I able to get in Shima? Am I able to get pumpkins? If you um, if you have a garden somewhere, are you able to get your vegetables without having to buy them? You know, if if you're living in a certain area and you're able to access a market that is offering food at a cheaper price, you can go there and try to see which foods are more affordable to you. Um, in that market, so there are different foods, and the variety is so much, so you can go to markets where you are able to afford those foods, and you don't have um, to eat um, certain foods all the time. So, for example, if you're not able to afford fruits all the time, you can still have them once in a while, but don't just neglect getting fruits. So, if it's not something that you're able to afford every single day, where you're able to afford a fruit on every meal or every day, you can still have it once in a while. So, depending on what's in season as well. So, seasonal foods tend to be much cheaper. So, if you have candolo in season, get your candolo. If you have pumpkins in season, get those. If you have pineapples in season, you have avocados in season, be able to access those ones that are in season because they are much cheaper. And so you include a variety in your budget. And one thing people need to understand is that you might be saying, oh no, it's very expensive to get certain foods, but it's also very expensive to be able to maintain, to go to the hospital and buy medication, nurse diseases, because that's very burdensome financially. When you become ill, when you have all these communicable diseases, it becomes so burdensome on the family now. So to prevent that, create budgets, create food meals, meal plans that are inclusive of all these healthy foods that we're talking about. Yeah.
I love that about the meal plan, just because obviously I am a woman and yeah, it's hectic. Could you help us with what does a good health what does a good meal plan look like? You have told us about how we should have carbohydrates and whatnot, but for the average family who cannot even afford everything that is needed, um, on a daily basis, what would a good meal plan look like? Even just taking an example from your own home, if you could share with us, like, what does your meal plan look like for breakfast? If we have porridge and, I don't know, groundnuts, then lunch we'll have like chicken and rice, I don't know, but just to help us with the structure of a meal plan.
Yes. So a meal plan, as we have highlighted, so breakfast, lunch, supper, that's like the basic. But of course, you can even include a snack maybe at 16 hours. You can include that part in your meal plan as well. So for breakfast, you can have your bread. If you love bread, you have so when creating a meal plan, you should be able to have the major thing that you're having in your in your meal. So if it's your bread, your kandolo, or your nshima, your rice, you spread those out. And if you're having your porridge, samp as well is a good option. Your samp, yeah. So you can be able to spread those in your meal plan and decide, okay, on this day I'm going to have this, on this day I'm going to have this. And then now you start including your protein in your meal plan. So if you say Sunday I'm having samp, for example, and you're putting in groundnuts in the samp, so you have samp with groundnuts for breakfast. For lunch, maybe you have nshima with chicken, for example, and maybe in the evening you can have maybe some rice with maybe the leftover chicken that remained in the afternoon, you know and that's one thing that people can incorporate in as they are making meal plans, that you can cook enough food to be able to spill over to the next meal, so that you don't always have to be spending a lot of time in the kitchen cooking all the time. You can make enough food to spill over to the next meal or to another day. So if you cook enough, maybe today you cook enough fish, you can still keep it for tomorrow. Again, you have another a meal with fish maybe in the morning or in the afternoon or evening. So that's how you can structure your meal plan. Then, of course, if you're having bread, you can have your bread with egg, for example. Make an omelette. So make egg with some vegetables. Throw in some vegetables in there. You make an omelette, and you have your bread with egg. If you don't have vegetables to put in your egg or to make an omelette, you can still have at least your bread with an egg alone, and that's still a good combination of a protein and a carbohydrate. Then if you're having it, if you don't still have eggs, you can still have your bread with peanut butter. That's a good option of a protein that you can have with your bread. Or avocado, you get your protein from avocado, you get a healthy fats from avocado. That's something that you can still have with your bread, you know. And if you're having porridge, you can still have whether it's maize porridge or it's jungle oats porridge, you know, you can still be able to make. If you can't afford jungle oats, you can still have the simple porridge. Just add in your protein, some groundnuts, you add in some milk, you know, and make it more nutritious. Get more nutrients in there. So if you're having your jungle oats, you add your protein, your milk, or some peanut butter. That's how you can make your breakfast. You can structure your breakfast like that. Then for your afternoon, you can either decide, okay, I'll be having rice on shimai this afternoon, or with what. Now you can decide what are you having on each particular day. So you can have your chicken, your fish, soya chunks, and like I have said, you can still make enough to spill over to the next meal, so that you don't always have to go back in the kitchen cooking all the time, because I know that's hectic. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think this is something I've picked up on from what you're talking about is, in as much as we'll talk about cost, I think there are other factors like convenience that we may not be taking into consideration as to why people lean to certain foods that may be deemed unhealthy in the portions that we're doing them, because
Mm,
they're quick to make. I
yeah.
know everyone will say we love bread. We also love the fact that bread doesn't need to be cooked.
True.
That's one
Yeah.
of the factors that
Yeah.
drives bread. You just rip it out the packet, spread it, and chew it. You don't have to boil it like your sweet potatoes, like we're talking about.
Yeah.
So perhaps these are some of the factors. So in as much as we're talking about food planning, it appears one of the battles, this is where I always say this is where the devil comes in through the door: food cravings.
Yeah.
Whether it's a result of how we feel that day or the culture we were raised in, there's certain cravings that tend to deal with us, where we've planned out our diet, we put it all together, and then my tongue is saying, no, but let's go this way, let's go this way. Let's grab something deep fried. So, how much is it in our food budgets, our convenience and cravings playing a role as opposed to cost, which we like to point out a lot?
Yes, actually, food cravings play a vital role in our choices of food and what we eat. Um, you know, you crave hungry lion, for example, and you want to just go and have that hungry lion. You crave pizza, you know. So sorry. So all these are foods that are not very healthy, and they don't give us so much value, but we still crave for them. And one thing that I advise people to do is not to let go of eating these foods once in a while. So don't entirely restrict yourself from getting your hungry lion or a pizza once in a while. Not every week. Every week it's you going to buy hungry lion. It's you going, even if you have so much money, but at least try to restrict how much you are getting, how much you are eating of these, but don't entirely restrict yourself. So once in a while, get a pizza, get a hungry lion, and eat with your family, you know. And um, also, food cravings play a role in that. Um, Depending on how you woke up that day, you might decide, okay, I want to eat this or I want to eat that, and that's still okay, provided it's a healthy food that you love and you want to eat it. That's okay. Yeah.
Also, one of the things that I have been learning, you know how sometimes you have the healthy food choices, you've done your budgeting and your planning, but the way foods are stored also contributes to some of these ailments that come, which still leads to the deficiencies in our proteins and whatever that we need. What are the best ways to store and like the length of time, you know what I mean? Sometimes your meat is in the fridge for 3 months. Is that is that even healthy? You know what I mean? So what are the things we should be thinking about? Because it's not just about having the food, but also how is it stored, and what can you teach us about how well we can store our food in a healthy way in order to live a healthy life.
Yes. So when it comes to storage, of course, different categories of food will be stored differently. For your carbohydrates, you want to store them in a place where it's cool and dry, in a dry area. So if you are keeping rice or mealie meal, store it somewhere dry to avoid it um, having molds, so store it in a dry area. Then for your vegetables, your fruits, you can store them either in the fridge or just in an open space where um, you'll be able to see them and grab one easily. um, then for when it comes to your vegetables, of course, have to be stored in the fridge. You can store your vegetables in the fridge, and it's advisable that you store certain vegetables, especially the leafy vegetables. You store them in a plastic. You tie the plastic so that it's an airtight plastic, and that can keep the vegetable fresh for a longer period of time. But of course, with vegetables, they can't last for too long. So within a week or 2 weeks, actually before 2 weeks, actually, maybe a week and some days, you can keep your vegetable. But of course, you have to eat it within that time. Um, then if we talk about meats, those are the ones that go now in your deep freezer. And you can store them depending on what type of meat it is. You can store it for a good amount of time, maybe even a month or so. So you can be able to store your meat in the fridge for even a month. And some people would prefer to buy certain meats and keep them in the fridge for even 2 months. That's still okay. You can still keep your meat in the fridge for 2 months. So that's beef meat. But for meats like chicken, fish, it's best if you keep them for a shorter period of time, maybe just within a month. You consume them, and then yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we wanted to open up to some of our viewers who actually had some questions, which we had written here. So I think one of the questions one of the comments, I'll just read this here. This is by Martin Zumara, who has said Zambia now has food dietary guidelines. Of course, still a bit technical, and once a consumer guide is developed, it will be really helpful to the public on specific amounts that we consume in a user-friendly language. I think this is what we're talking about. Cookbooks, Doc, might be helpful. I'm just
Yeah.
throwing this out at you. These are your $1 million ideas I'm just throwing at you right now that you might
Yeah.
help. Trevor has written, I like having a smoothie for supper and lunch sometimes. What's the ideal smoothie to have?
Okay. So when it comes to smoothies, um, of course, again, people are different. Like for me, I'm not a drinker. I don't like drinking stuff. I live in a house where people drink a lot of juice. They consume a lot of juice. So I am not a drinker. I don't like drinking. So foods have to be solid for me, not liquid. Yeah. But if you prefer to have a smoothie, you can incorporate of course, different fruits that you love to eat or the ones that are in season at that particular time, and include some protein. So you can either put in some peanut butter, some milk, some yogurt. Those are also protein sources that you can include in your smoothie just to make it more nutritious. So any type of smoothie that you love, any fruits, any fruit combinations that you love. There are so many fruit combinations that you can do when making smoothies, even vegetables as well. People incorporate vegetables in their smoothies depending whether you can tolerate them. So if you can tolerate putting in some cucumber in there, you can still put in your cucumber and maybe other vegetables that you can think of. Yeah.
I once had a Fisashi smoothie, and that was interesting. it was
That
it
that
was
is very interesting.
Wow.
I didn't repeat it. I'll just tell you that. I
I'm
didn't
sure
repeat
you
it.
didn't.
We have another question here from what's it from Martin Zumara, who has said, Doc, we see a lot of people consulting Google and non-professionals, doctors, nutritionists, dietitians on their needs, on their diet needs. What is your comment on the need to consult with quality professionals on diet?
Actually, it's very important that you speak to a professional um, in terms of your diet, especially if you're struggling coming up with meal plans, coming up with a budget of what to buy, what to include in your food budget. It's important that you talk to somebody, seek professional help. We have quite a variety of nutritionists in our hospitals that can be able to guide on what to eat, how to eat. If you are diabetic and hypertensive, even more so for you to be able to seek guidance on how you're supposed to be eating your food or preparing your food. So it's very key that you seek professional help, professional guidance, as this will greatly help, including variety and also just ease your thoughts and also ease your mindset around food. Yeah.
I really like that, Dr. Ampaya. What you say, just answering the previous question, and now it's also the understanding of what your needs are. You know how sometimes we generalize, we just think, protein is good to have, right? But also at the end of the day, I am an individual with specific needs, right? And
Yeah.
the importance of seeing a professional is because they will advise me what I need to increase, what I need to reduce. I'll give you an example of me. Sometimes I struggle with low blood pressure, right? And so I used to love lemons and I would take a lot of them, and I didn't know that didn't help me. And then I learned that I needed to cut that down, even if it was good for my vitamin C. It
Yeah.
wasn't really great for my blood pressure. So, and I just to add to that, it's so important because yes, we can put out a lot of general information, but you're a
Yeah.
unique individual with unique needs. Some people already have conditions, and you can't exactly give a full assessment of what the person's needs are right here. And it's so essential to go and get the help. And especially when you have things like what you're explaining to us, someone's energy is really low, go get help. You're losing weight, go get help. There's a rush on your body that you're not understanding, go get help. And I think that's really important.
Mm.
Yeah, though I would say that a lot of us like to get help to get cured and not to get advised going forward. That may be where the
So
problem
good.
will be, is that we, we,
That
we,
number. It's
we
so
just want
important.
to get rid of the problem instead of
Mm,
asking now how do we live our lives going forward. And this is
Yeah.
why it's very important to even know how you talked about the fact that they are nutritionists in hospital. I think as one of the final thoughts that I'll have here before we open up, how does one go about consulting a nutritionist to try and get an idea of
mm.
what meal plan they should be setting, what hospitals are available, where can we go and seek nutritional advice?
Yes. So like I had mentioned, we have a variety of nutritionists around, and most hospitals actually, maybe not all, but most hospitals would have a nutritionist at least who is there to give guidance on what foods you should be eating. So seek their professional guidance, their professional help. So once you got the hospital and you have been seen by the doctor, you can still ask to see a nutritionist to advise you on a diet. I know our hospitals are so overwhelmed and we don't really have much time to advise patients on no go and see nutritionists and such. But you as an individual, you can still request, you go there and request to be seen or to see a nutritionist, and they'll be able to give you guidance and advice. Yeah.
Is it
To
just me
our
or I have
tech,
lost your sound?
no, I think you were gone for a bit.
Oh, I was
Whoopi,
going.
yeah. No. Whoopi was gone for a bit. But yeah, Whoopi, I think you may have lost our sound on your side. But to our tech audience out there who are tech developers, People, this is a business opportunity. I know that people don't like it, but this is a business opportunity. Okay, develop an application, because I think where the middle ground comes is asking what is available, what conditions do I have, and what finances do I have available. If somebody can develop a solution to that, it actually helps support a lot of meal planning, because like I said, whenever you're seeing in the countries like the United States and so forth, they actually are developing applications where a person can insert conditions, they can insert their budget, their financial budget, and all of a
Mm,
sudden, bang, it actually spits out a meal plan for them and tells
true.
them what to go and buy from the grocery store or to
Yeah.
go and buy from the marketplace. I think maybe in terms of that kind of a convenient solution, that where somebody can actually have that, might be something that we might start needing, especially with the rise of things like smartphones in this
Mm,
country. Now, looking at some of the questions that I've been asked, Doc, indirectly, you've actually answered quite a number of these, because we've seen somebody who did actually point out the fact that we need to start looking at qualified nutritionists. And also, Martin Zumara did talk about junk food and how
mm.
people are eating convenient food. You talked about the fact that we shouldn't cut it off, but really we just need to moderate it very well, because we're obviously looking for convenient solutions. So, Doc, in this final moment, I know that we wanted to wrap this up today. What last thoughts do you have to our audience and to our people about making sure they plan this food part of their budget so well to make sure that, yes, it's affordable, but it's also not harmful to their future? And I think this is where you're going. So, Doc, the floor is yours in giving us your thoughts on what we should be doing and any parting thoughts you have with us.
Yes. So like we have mentioned, you need to be including all these food choices in our diet, and there are a variety of food choices. And also, make sure you make a budget. A budget will be able to guide you, and you will not just go to the store without knowing what you're going to get, and getting anything that your eye sees. So you'll be able to see these and you get it, see this and you get it. So once you make a budget and you have a list of the things that you need, you'll be able to get the foods that you are only going to use. Because sometimes we get foods and they just stay in the fridge because we haven't planned for them, you know, and that also consumes a lot of finances from our family basket, you know. um Actually, if you look at it, most of food is actually takes quite a big space in terms of our finances in the home. So make sure you're making the right choices. If you have a list, you reduce on getting or overspending on foods that you're not going to use, that you're not going to get any value or any benefit from them in terms of nutrition. So make a budget, make a list, and use that to get foods from the stores, from the markets. Also, make sure you are getting foods that are in season. Foods that are in season will be much cheaper at that particular time. So assess the season and see what foods can I get in this season that I need to incorporate that my family hasn't been eating as much. So if it's your sweet potato, your pumpkin, your avocados, you know, masuku, masao, all these are seasonal foods, and just make sure that you're including them as you are making your plans. Then avoid taking junk food when you go shopping. Avoid taking junk food. So also, when you're going shopping, make sure you eat before you go shopping, because the tendency is you go there and you're hungry and you want to find something quick to eat. You know, eat something first. Go shopping when you have already eaten. That way you avoid getting junk food as you are doing your shopping. Yeah. So avoid things like your uh, these snacks, the jiggies, the lays, and all, not to you know bring down their business, but I'm just trying to say that you need to reduce on taking these foods in your home, because they contain a lot of calories and they are not good for our health. um the other thing that I wanted us to highlight in this discussion was that people need to adopt healthy eating habits. And when we talk about healthy eating habits, we're talking about being able to um, allocate the right portions of foods as you are eating. Most people do not take into consideration the portions of the foods that they're eating. They just eat mindlessly, and as long as this food, I'm just going to eat. In the end, you find that you've eaten 3 lumps of nshima. Like, where are you taking all that energy? Um, Yeah, so we need to highlight that as well. Adopt healthy eating habits. Only get the portions of food that you're going to eat, and of course, it has to be something that will be able to satisfy you. You don't have to stay hungry, but that's why you should include more vegetables, because more vegetables will mean that they will make you feel full without taking in too many calories. Your carbohydrates and your protein have more calories than your vegetables. So get more vegetables in. Half of your plate at least should be your vegetables, and a quarter of protein, a quarter of carbohydrates. So get in more fiber from your vegetables, and get you know a variety of vegetables. So the other thing that we need to highlight in terms of healthy eating habits is that you need to avoid over snacking. People snack too much. They eat a lot of snacks. So you've eaten your breakfast at 10 hours, again, you want to eat something. Again, after a short period of time, you want to eat something. Um, Also, to avoid over snacking, you can try to include protein, include carbohydrate at each meal. So your protein will make you full for a longer time, and also your vegetables will make you full for a longer time. That way you avoid snacking frequently. And once you have eaten enough and you have eaten your protein, your vegetables, you will not feel the need to snack on something unhealthy again. But if you eat something like a biscuit for breakfast, it means you feel very hungry, and that energy will be quickly dissolved in the body, and you want to eat again. So um, it's actually true what they say, that once you start eating junk food, you end up wanting to eat more junk food. So eat healthy food, and that way you lessen the craving for eating junk food. So eat healthy and avoid over snacking. Then the other thing that we need to highlight is that you need to exercise. So exercise is something that should be part of our lifestyle. Even as we are making food choices, we need to include activity in our lifestyle. You shouldn't just end at eating. Of course, eating has a major role to play in terms of getting nutrients, and also gaining weight or losing weight, maintaining our weight and maintaining a healthy weight, but also exercise, getting some activity, because you can't be eating food and you're not using up the energy that you're eating. You're consuming food, but that food is giving you energy, and you're not utilizing that energy. And that energy gets converted into fat if you're not utilizing it. So, exercise is a very important key of our lifestyle that we need to adopt, even as we are looking at all these foods that we are eating in our diet. So, I think those will be my last words and encouragements to people out there.
Thank you so much, Doc. One of the things I'm taking away from this is whenever making a food budget, I also need to consider what nutrients are in the things I'm buying alongside the cost of the things I'm buying. My plea to you, Doc, and your those of you who are around, especially you and who have a passion for this, is also help us, because those of us who are trying to track, we don't know what the calorie count of masuku is. We don't know what the calorie count properly of, okay, candolo we know because it's sweet potato. But
Yeah.
we don't know how to track the macronutrients in some of our local foods, because a lot of the applications that have tracked these things really look at Western food, and they don't look at the foods that we consume right now, and also in the names. Because I've also noticed that sometimes when we're trying to track what we're eating, we also, when we put it in the colloquial terms we have it in, or in the vernacular terms we have it in, it's not specifically in the way that it's put maybe in the databases out there. So it may
Yeah.
be of need for us. I think information gaps are really where we're struggling when it
Mm,
comes to trying to get our diets correct. But I think it's so valuable, everything you've told us today,
yeah.
mainly because a lot of us want to make sure that we live full and healthy lives. The Bible does say, I pray that you be blessed in all areas, and as you are in good health. So we
Yeah.
realize that to enjoy a blessing of wealth and a full life is not as useful when your health is deteriorating. So this is
True.
how we're trying to get our people to live wealthy and also healthy lives, so that together they can have the combination of both. Wupe, I don't know if you have any final comments before we close up today's session.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, I just really want to thank Dr. Fire for making time tonight. It's been very insightful what you have shared with us. And just for the benefit of everyone on the live right now, just to say, Martin Zumara says he's a nutritionist, and like Dr. Fire said, it's very difficult because the hospitals are so busy. So when you find one, take advantage of them. And Martin Zumara, if it's not too much to ask, do let us know how we can reach you by giving us a contact or an email in the comment section, so that people know how to reach you. I would like to reach you as well. But apart from that, Doc, thank you so much once again. This has really, really been good. And I hope we can sit down to chat again. I hope this is not the last time. And thank you, Munyumba, as always. It's been good.
Thank you
And
so
because
much. Thank you so
and
much for, and I have really enjoyed this discussion, and I know it's something that people really need to hear. So I really appreciate that we took time to discuss about it.
and because you missed it at the beginning, we were live, and thank you very much for
I
joining
tried to
us
do
live.
that on your behalf, but I wasn't half as good.
So, and Martin has actually put his contact details in the comment section for everybody
Oh,
who would like to
perfect.
reach
Thank
him.
you so much. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. That's everyone. Have a wonderful night. God bless.